My name is Kiara and this is my story. I am 30 years old and I work as an architect. 3 years ago, I married Luca, a man I thought loved me unconditionally. Our marriage was happy, at least at first. But, over time, the desire to have a child began to affect our relationship. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to stay updated on our stories. 2 years into our marriage, we decided to have a baby. It wasn't an easy task. Each failed attempt seemed to add to the tension between us. The frustration built up with each month that passed without results. We consulted several doctors and specialists, but no one could give us a clear answer. The treatments were expensive and stressful, and every time I got a negative result, I felt a piece of my heart break. "Do you want to try tonight?" I often asked him, but Luca, increasingly tired, put it off. Our intimacy diminished and frustration grew. From that point on, Luca became more and more distant. His absences became more frequent, and his excuses increasingly vague. I often found myself alone at dinner, my mind filled with doubts and questions to which I had no answers. I was beginning to fear that there was another woman in his life, and I decided to talk to my sister Viola about it. She had 3 children and I thought she could give me some advice. Viola was always available and ready to listen to me. During a visit to his home, he said to me, "I understand how difficult this is. Why don't you try doing something different to stimulate him?" My brother Matteo, known for his extravagant ideas, also intervened. "Sis, why don't you seduce him creatively?" she suggested. I went home with a new determination. That evening, I put on my most provocative lingerie and tried to seduce Luca. It worked, but it was the last time we shared an intimate moment. Luca began coming home later and later, often without explanation. "Are you going to be late tonight?" I asked. "Yes, go to bed without me," he replied. I felt more and more alone and confused. I hoped that a pregnancy would solve our problems, but it didn't. My family's support became more and more important. My sister Viola would visit me often, bringing home-cooked food and words of comfort. "You don't have to go through this alone," she would tell me. Matteo also tried to make me smile with his jokes, but a sense of desperation grew inside me. One evening, Luca accused me of infidelity. "Have you met anyone recently?" "What? Who could I meet in these conditions?" I replied, shocked. The tension grew and the day of delivery approached. When the time finally came, Luca was at work. My parents drove me to the hospital. After 4 hours of labor, our son, Marco, was born. The joy of holding him in my arms was indescribable. But when Luca arrived, he showed no emotion. "Look at the baby we've always wanted," I said. Luca remained impassive. Unable to bear the silence any longer, I spoke up, "Hey, say something." But Luca didn't answer. Then, in a cold voice, he asked the doctor to do a DNA test. "What? What are you talking about?" Everyone was surprised. But Luca didn't believe it. We had so much trouble conceiving. It must be someone else's. The doctor, an old family friend, tried to calm the situation by suggesting the test. The accusation was too serious to ignore. I began to doubt everything, even myself. Maybe Luca was right? But how could that be possible? I was trapped in a vortex of confusion and pain. The tension between us became unbearable, and our home, once a safe haven, became a place of conflict and suspicion. A week later, I went back to the hospital for the results. Luca was already there, with a creepy smile. The doctor announced, "There is no parental connection between Luca and the baby." The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. The truth was unbelievable. Luca had paid the doctor to falsify the results. I discovered everything thanks to my sister Viola and Matteo, who had started investigating. Matteo, with his investigative skills, found damning evidence of Luca's betrayal with a coworker. Luca had planned to use his child support money to pay for the doctor. He was a despicable man. I decided to deal with it once and for all. We arranged a meeting with the lawyers. "I demanded divorce and alimony," Luca said arrogantly. But we had all the evidence against him. Happy to have done justice, I obtained a divorce and alimony for Marco. Over time, I found the strength to rebuild my life. I focused on my work and on Marco, trying to give him all the love and attention he deserved. Every day with him was a new adventure, and his smile gave me the strength to keep going. Before continuing, if you are enjoying the story, please like to support us. Thank you so much. With the support of my family, especially Viola and Matteo, my life began to take a more serene turn. Even though Luca continued to try to complicate my life, my lawyer was determined to protect my rights and Marco's. During the first few months after the divorce, I received several threatening calls from Luca. He tried to get me to give in on financial and custody issues. Every time I answered, his voice was filled with anger and frustration. "You won't get rid of me that easily," she said. But each time, I found the strength to respond calmly and firmly, thanks also to the constant support of Viola and Matteo. My brother Matteo, with his investigative spirit, never stopped looking for new evidence against Luca. She discovered that Luca had hidden part of his assets in offshore accounts, hoping not to have to pay child support. This discovery proved crucial in our legal case. "You can't hide forever, Luca," I thought, as the lawyer added this new evidence to our case. Marco was growing strong and healthy, and each of his progresses was a small victory for me. One day, while walking in the park, we met an old friend, Fabio, whom I hadn't seen for years. "Chiara, it's been a long time," he exclaimed. Fabio was a schoolmate, a person I trusted a lot. I told him briefly about my situation and he immediately offered to help. "You know, I work as a legal consultant. If you need anything, just call me." His offer was a breath of fresh air. Fabio became a constant presence in my life, helping me manage legal matters and offering his emotional support. "You are not alone in this, Chiara," he often reminded me, and those words had extraordinary power. Meanwhile, Luca's situation worsened. He lost more and more control of his life, and in the end he was abandoned by his partner too. A part of me felt sorry for him, but I remembered all the pain he had caused me and focused on Marco's and my future. My life was starting to rebuild. I found a new job in a renowned architectural firm, where I could put all my skills to good use. One night, while we were cooking dinner, Viola looked at me and said, "Chiara, you are the strongest person I know. Marco was lucky to have a mother like you." Those words touched me deeply. I looked at my son, my little miracle, and I knew that every sacrifice, every tear, had been worth it. My story is an example of how, despite the difficulties, it is possible to find the strength within yourself to move forward. What about you? Have you ever faced a similar situation? How did you overcome it? Share your experience in the comments. I would love to hear it.